No, this takes a minute to zero.
A boxer, real world champion boxer. That the only other time he was in for the fans to get mad with that was against Fury's Tommy Fury, but it wasn't that level, obviously, and all the size things you just rightfully pointed out. But he would have been in there with, you know, I mean, it seemed crazy.
Gervonta Tank. Davis has left fans stunned after unveiling a shocking new physique ahead of his clash with Jake Paul. Known for his compact build and thunderous power, Tank seems to have transformed his body into something far more imposing. Recent training clips reveal a noticeably bulked up, more intimidating version of Davis, sparking rumors that he's gearing up to meet Paul's size and raw strength head-on.
We're yelling so much about him fighting someone, fight somebody your size. His next opponent is, by far, the most credentialed guy ever fought actively in his prime. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. He fights at 130.
As the showdown with Jake Paul nears, Davis has turned his training camp into an all-out assault on his limits, pushing through intense conditioning, heavy sparring, and brutal strength sessions. Insiders say he's been lifting heavier than ever, stacking on muscle through compound exercises while maintaining his trademark speed and sharp footwork. Reports also reveal he's been sparring with bigger, stronger fighters, some the size of heavyweights, to get used to taking hits from men far larger than his usual rivals.
Yeah.
This Santa Cruz out here to death.
Take that, let it burn, baby, let it burn.
Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter.
This is the blues I'm
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. Nigga trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
when the night is cold and low.
Oh, shit.
Light camera action.
And fighting for the light action. Cat.
Come on, Tank. Come on, Tank. Run him out. Run him out, Tank. Come on, let me see. Dig down in there. Dig down in there. 10 seconds.
This is the blues I'm playing.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
This is a final thing.
Remember that gun on it? They got that gun on that tank. They go, time.
When the night is cold and low.
He ain't gonna keep you here late tonight. Good job.
It's been hard being away from my daughter. You know, she actually here, she sleep. Just being away from her, it was a little touchy, but I know when I'm up, you know, up against, you know, I know that I got pay-per-view. You know, I know I'm fighting a tough opponent, so really I know how to lock in. I know how to shy away from everything. I know how to, like, I know how to fool around.
I said 10
No, don't do, no, don't do. I can't go on TV looking like that.
Jake Paul remains a naturally bigger man, and with the fight capped at 195 pounds and 12-ounce gloves, Davis faces a mountain of a challenge. Normally fighting around 135 pounds, he's stepping into unfamiliar territory where weight and power matter most. Critics warn that bulking up so drastically might rob him of the very weapons that define him: his blinding speed, explosiveness, and razor-sharp timing.
Jake Paul, Tank Davis fight got moved to Miami.
I think Jake wins.
Jake's just so big, dude.
I think Jake wins.
This is different because it's similar. It's similar to Logan versus Mayweather, but Jake Paul
boxing.
Now obviously is way more advanced than where Logan was at that moment in time.
I mean,
Gervonta
it's
is
just
fucking sick.
I mean, yeah, no, but dude,
Did
Jake.
you ever watch his highlights?
Jake can
He's
crack,
nasty,
man.
He's so sick. I love that guy, bro.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight.
Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you. Apparently, boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
UFC boss Dana White didn't hold back when discussing a potential Davis versus Paul fight. He admitted the hype is lukewarm, but called it a smart move for Tank, who's endured rough headlines and fading buzz outside the ring. In White's eyes, this bout could be a chance for Davis to grab the spotlight and rebuild his brand, even if many question its legitimacy. He believes Paul's size, reach, and raw strength would allow him to lean on Tank, clinch, and wear him down, turning the fight into a test of endurance rather than pure skill.
Is picking Jake Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's where I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight, and says something to the effect that, hey, he was talking to Logan Paul and said, hey, when you were fighting Floyd, you know, there was this, you're a gigantic guy, big size difference. There was a time when Floyd Mayweather Jr. had an overhand right that landed flush on Jake Paul, on Logan.
Bare-knuckle brawler and ex-UFC fighter Mike Perry didn't hold back either, blasting Davis for what he called a cash grab matchup. He accused Tank of chasing fame and paychecks instead of real legacy fights, claiming the hunger that once made him a champion has faded. Perry even suggested Jake Paul might now be hungrier and more driven, a statement that reignited fiery debates about where Davis's motivation truly lies.
Jake is big, Tank has a lot of skill, but I don't think he's the same Tank that we saw the most incredible knockouts. We saw him, Lamont Roach performed great. They went to draw, and, I just don't know. And Tank walked away. I don't know if he loves it enough to beat a guy who outweighs him by 80 to 100 pounds.
At the face-off, fans noticed something rare. Tank Davis looked uneasy. His stiff posture, forced calm, and lack of eye contact told a story of their own. Standing toe-to-toe with a visibly larger Jake Paul, Davis seemed to feel the weight of what he's up against. Some say he was just composed and focused, but others saw flickers of doubt in his usually fearless demeanor.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Veteran trainer Teddy Atlas couldn't help but highlight the size gap during their face-off, joking that Tank might need a ladder just to touch Jake's chin. While he admitted mismatches in boxing are nothing new, he said this one crosses the line. Comparing it to Canelo moving up to fight Crawford, Atlas stressed that even that difference wasn't as extreme as this. To him, the bout looks more like a show than a serious sporting contest from the very beginning.
Right? They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract. But I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance, you know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but a little different. The size difference was, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm gonna ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm gonna ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, AKA Thunder Lips. He was Thunder Lips back there. And I thought I had it right, and it was confirmed to me. It's Rocky.
Shakur Stevenson slammed the rumored Davis versus Paul fight as a terrible idea for boxing, calling it a spectacle built purely for money. The undefeated star argued that the matchup makes no competitive sense, saying the enormous size gap strips it of any legitimacy and turns it into a sideshow rather than a real test of skill.
Maybe he'll fight Jake Paul instead. What do you think of that?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
I get it, because at the end of the day, it's the money business, and you want to make the most money, but from what I'm hearing, he can make more money in a fight with me, and if that's the case, why not fight me?
Sure. Do you think he beats Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah.
It's a huge size advantage, though.
It is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now.
Leonard Ellerby revealed that Davis had been going through personal struggles and lacked the drive to take on major fights during that time. He explained that Tank's decision to stay away wasn't about fear, but about focus, choosing to handle life outside the ring instead of piling on pressure. His step away from Roach was simply a way to regain control before returning stronger.
Leonard Ellerby said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it, and he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach, and that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Jake Paul's journey in boxing has always blurred the line between sport and spectacle. Rather than chasing titles or rankings, he targets opponents who generate headlines and viral moments. From ex-MMA fighters to undersized boxers like Davis, his matchups spark massive attention online. The contrast between the two is glaring. Jake, taller and heavier, built for brawls, while Davis, just 5'5" and 130 pounds, relies on speed and precision. It's a contest that feels more like a collision of brands than an even fight.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury. But it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy first round knockout for my
MMA legend Nate Diaz dismissed the entire idea of Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, calling it a fake show built for pay-per-view money. He said it's not a true fight, but another example of how modern boxing has drifted away from real competition. To Diaz, events like this are all about entertainment and profit, stripping the sport of the authenticity it once stood for.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
It's just. I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. I'm not hating on the fight, but I think. My thoughts on it is let's watch and see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing's turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. What do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's at WWE. So
right.
Like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch. And I'm looking forward.
Michael Bisping also voiced his disapproval, questioning why Jake Paul would face a man nearly 100 pounds lighter. He compared it to the controversial Mike Tyson bout, another fight built more for headlines than fairness. Bisping warned that these mismatched spectacles are eroding boxing's integrity, replacing meaningful rivalries with circus acts designed only to sell tickets.
That is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers.
So the real question remains, do you see this as an exciting crossover event that pushes boundaries, or just another publicity stunt dragging boxing further away from what it once was?